Adriano Leite Ribeiro didn't rise quietly. He exploded into football. Born in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro, raised among struggle, loss, and survival, Adriano learned early that nothing would be given. Everything would have to be taken. Football was never just a game. It was an escape from reality, a shield against the world, and the only language he truly spoke. On dusty pitches, surrounded by noise, danger, and chaos, his left foot already sounded different, louder, heavier, unforgiving. From the very beginning, coaches and teammates sensed something abnormal. Adriano wasn't elegant, he wasn't refined, he didn't glide, he collided. He played football like someone who had something to prove. When he accelerated, defenders didn't chase him, they braced themselves. When he shot, goalkeepers didn't dive, they reacted late. Brazil has always produced gifted players, but Adriano felt raw, almost violent. A striker built not for beauty, but for dominance. At Flamengo, his power took shape. At Inter Milan, it was unleashed on the world. When he arrived in Europe, curiosity followed him. But belief didn't. Serie A was ruthless, tactical, defensive, unforgiving to young strikers. Adriano didn't adapt to the league. The league adapted to him. Center backs doubled up, lines dropped deeper, entire defensive systems were designed to stop one man. It didn't work. One touch was enough, one step of space, one mistake. His left foot became a weapon feared across Europe, long-range rockets that bent physics. Finishes struck with anger, not finesse. Goals that didn't feel celebrated, they felt survived. Stadiums erupted not in joy, but in shock. Commentators searched for metaphors strong enough to describe him. And then, a name emerged. A name that carried weight, power, and inevitability. L'Imperatore. The Emperor. It wasn't a nickname given lightly. Adriano ruled matches without touching the ball. His presence alone dictated behavior. Defenders hesitated. Goalkeepers positioned themselves differently. Entire games bent around his movement. Inter Milan wasn't just winning matches, they were building an identity around him. Shirts sold by the thousands. Expectations skyrocketed. The club had found its symbol. For Brazil, something even bigger was happening. After Ronaldo's injuries and uncertainty, the nation needed a new force, a new certainty. Adriano looked like the perfect heir. Stronger, younger, more brutal. A striker who embodied Brazil's power, not just its flair. Once again, the future seemed secure. At his peak, Adriano felt untouchable, physically dominant, mentally confident, emotionally full. The ball obeyed him, the crowd trusted him, the football world believed in him. And for a brief, intoxicating moment, football belonged to the Emperor. Between 2004 and 2005, Adriano Leite Ribeiro reached a level few footballers ever experience, a moment when talent, confidence, and physical power aligned perfectly. This was not potential anymore. This was dominance. Every time Adriano stepped onto the pitch, Inter Milan knew the game was tilted in their favor. Opponents knew something worse. Stopping him was no longer an option. Surviving him was. Serie A was built to destroy strikers, tight spaces, aggressive marking. Tactical discipline, yet Adriano tore through it with brutal simplicity. He didn't need combinations or elaborate build-up. Give him space, and he would punish you. Give him time, and he would end you. Goals came from everywhere, outside the box, inside the box, through defenders, over goalkeepers. His left foot became one of the most feared weapons in world football. At Inter, Adriano wasn't just the star, he was the system. The team revolved around his movement, his power, his inevitability. Trophies followed. Serie A titles, Coppa Italia, individual awards. Week after week, his name appeared among the best players in the world. The Ballon d'Or conversation wasn't speculation anymore. It felt like destiny waiting its turn. And then there was Brazil. In the 2004 Copa America, Adriano didn't simply play well, he carried a nation. With Ronaldo absent and expectations heavy, he became the reference point of the Brazilian attack. decisive goals, late moments, leadership under pressure. He finished the tournament as top scorer and delivered Brazil the title. In that competition, the world didn't just see a striker, it saw a future icon. Brazil had found its new certainty, the natural successor to Ronaldo, a forward who combined power with fearlessness, presence with efficiency. At club and international level, Adriano looked like the next unstoppable force of global football. Off the pitch, life changed fast, fame exploded, money multiplied. Attention became constant. Stadiums chanted his name, media crowned him, expectations grew heavier with every goal. Adriano had reached the summit of football, a place many dream of, but few know how to survive. At that moment, Adriano had everything the game could offer: glory, admiration, trophies, and belief. The Emperor was not chasing greatness anymore. He was living inside it, and from the outside it looked perfect. In 2004, football stopped being enough for Adriano, not because the goals disappeared, not because the talent faded, but because life finally reached a place the game could never protect. The death of his father didn't just break Adriano emotionally, it dismantled the structure that held him together. His father was his anchor, his guide, the one presence that made success feel safe and failure survivable. With that loss, Adriano didn't just grieve, he unraveled. Training sessions became a burden. The pitch, once a refuge, turned into a reminder of expectations he no longer felt capable of carrying. Football demands obsession, repetition, sacrifice. It offers no space for vulnerability. Adriano was expected to perform while silently drowning. And slowly, the fire that once powered him began to flicker. Grief isolated him. Fame amplified it. Surrounded by teammates, staff, cameras, and noise, Adriano had never felt more alone. The higher he stood in football's hierarchy, the harder it became to ask for help. Weakness was not allowed, pain was invisible, so he carried it alone. Nights replaced days, discipline gave way to escape, alcohol wasn't rebellion, it was anesthesia, a way to quiet thoughts, to delay memories, to feel nothing for a moment longer. Football could no longer compete with the weight he carried inside, and the Emperor began to fade not under stadium lights but in silence. On the pitch, flashes still appeared, a powerful strike, a familiar celebration, moments that reminded the world of what once was. But they were isolated sparks, not sustained fire. Injuries followed. His body responded slower, his weight increased. Confidence collapsed. Each missed opportunity felt heavier than the last. Coaches tried structure, clubs demanded results. The media shifted tone, from praise to pressure, from admiration to accusation. Few asked why, most only asked what happened. Football didn't know how to deal with grief. It only knew numbers, minutes, and output, and Adriano no longer fit the system that once crowned him emperor. Every comeback attempt carried the same cruel pattern: hope, expectation, relapse. Not because he lacked ability, but because his heart was no longer fighting for the game. The battle was internal, invisible, unwinnable with tactics alone. Adriano wasn't beaten by defenders. He wasn't exposed by form. He wasn't defeated by age. He was defeated by pain football never taught him how to face. And slowly, painfully, the world watched a legend disappear. Not in one dramatic fall, but in a series of quiet goodbyes. Adriano's decline was not a collapse. It was an erosion. Slow, relentless, public. There was no single moment where the world could say it was over. Instead, there were chapters. Each comeback attempt reopened old hope. Each return carried the same promise. This time, it will be different. And each time, reality arrived quietly, without drama. From Inter Milan to Roma, from Europe back to Brazil, from Flamengo to one last attempt to reconnect with the game that once defined him, the pattern never changed. The left foot still existed, the power still frightened defenders, but the fire, the inner reason to endure pain, pressure, and sacrifice, was gone. Football demands everything, every day. Adriano no longer had the strength to give it. Eventually, he stepped away, not in defeat, but in exhaustion. Adriano didn't leave football because he couldn't play. He left because he could no longer survive the life football imposed on him. The routines, the isolation, The constant expectation to be the emperor, even when he no longer felt whole. For many fans, his name became synonymous with wasted potential. A talent remembered more for what could have been than for what was. But that narrative is incomplete. Adriano reached the summit of football. He dominated Europe. He carried Brazil. He was feared, admired, and crowned. His fall was not the result of laziness or lack of discipline. It was the result of unresolved pain. Football is brilliant at creating idols, but it is terrible at protecting them. Today, Adriano lives far from the spotlight that once defined him, away from packed stadiums, relentless cameras, and endless judgment. To some, that distance feels like disappearance. To others, it feels like survival, a man choosing peace over performance. Because not every story ends with celebration. Not every legend fades under applause. Some stories end quietly, reminding us that behind every icon is a human being. Adriano didn't lose everything because he lacked talent. He didn't fail because he wasn't strong enough. He lost because pain arrived, and football had no language to heal it. And that is why his story still matters. Because football is not only about goals, trophies, and records, it's about the unseen battles, the nights after the stadium empties, the weight carried when the crowd goes silent. This is what Untold Football exists to tell. If you believe football's greatest stories are not just written in victories, but in vulnerability, resilience, and truth, leave a like, subscribe to Untold Football, and join us as we continue to uncover the stories the beautiful game never fully explains.